Those were great first sessions. I'll be honest with y'all, the autonomous building thing surprised me. I didn't think that people were gonna bring that up to y'all. So I think it's a fascinating conversation for sure. And certainly we have the technology, and with AI, of course, that's a huge enabler of it. But I think we all know there are steps in these buildings that they gotta go through before they can get to that point. And all those steps, you guys, are opportunities for all of us, just saying. I loved what Sarah said, 80% of the buildings were built before 99. I mean, guys, the retrofit market and Cochrane Supply, we're a distributor. We sell to thousands of contractors across the US. I'll bet you 85% of the work we get involved in is retrofit, in all honesty. And why is that? Well, because that's the majority of the work that's out there, believe it or not. I know people don't talk about it that much, but I believe it. I think that negotiated work is where the future is. And as we want to get to autonomous buildings, these building owners need good partners, and that's what you all are. And you're the ones who will get them there. So it's a great opportunity for all of us. So super excited. All right, so let's get started, shall we? Get back on our controls con track. So we got a couple more keynotes today. Our first keynote after the break here is I'd like to bring up Etrit Demai and Jeannie Schneider. Etrit's with Code Labs, Jeannie's with Hines. And they're gonna share with us a little bit about code and a little bit about the building industry from Jeannie's perspective as one of Code's customers. So welcome on stage, Jeannie. Thank you. Etrit.
What's up, sir?
Take it away, team.
So we're in Texas. I'm a native Estonian. The Aggies in the room? All right. Howdy. Howdy. All right. First, let me say thank you all for letting me crash your party. I do want to thank Scott and thank Etrit and Eddie for allowing me to talk with you guys today. Is anyone, y'all know who Hines is? Raise your hand if you know who Hines is. Okay, so not a terribly silly question. So let me say, so Hines is a commercial real estate company. We are the largest private real estate company in the world. We've been in business for 66 years, and some of the reasons I want to talk to you about a little bit about our background is because we're going to talk about how we are thinking about the future of work and how that's going to come into play. So Hines is interesting because we do every asset type. You guys may have read that we've got the Tampa Bay Rays, a new stadium, a new community. We've done Petco Park. We do multifamily. We do industrial. We do retail. We do office. We do it in 30 countries. And we also raise money, right? So we're a financial services institution that raises capital to place it into real estate. Today, we have just shy of $100 billion of assets under management for what I'll call equity owned. We usually have investment partners. In fact, we usually have major investment partners. We raise money from people, place it into real estate. We develop, we property manage. We do a little bit of it all. In addition to the 100 billion assets under management, we have close to 500 properties that we third party manage for other people. So just to give you a little bit of, we have a lot of stakeholders that we work with, our investors, our occupiers, visitors, our own company, et cetera. So, I don't think I have to tell you all, we're at an inflection point with real estate, particularly office. So Hines really wants to emerge out of this cycle with innovation. And that's where I'm spending all of my time. So I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Hines. I'm part of a group that we call the Global Digital Strategy Office. That also is our business process transformation as well as our data and analytics team. Together we make up the Global Digital Strategy Office, thinking about how are we going to take the built environment and make a digital environment. Yes. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is we have a global initiative going on. It's called the Future of the Workplace. a little misnomer because we're also thinking about living, we're also thinking about industrial as well. But we're really coming up with innovative programs on how we want to think about our assets going forward. Part of that approach is we're really connecting people with technology. We call it the Hines Experience, HX. We actually have a Hines Experience Academy where everybody goes through a training program that touches on every one of these tenets. We're going to talk about the technology and data component today. So we are really thinking about people. Okay, so, I sit up here, we obviously operate our buildings, and we want to be the best operator in the world, certainly. But everything I'm going to talk to you today is really about our clients. We pride ourselves on the fact that we service our clients, we put them first, even ahead of Hines' own interests. And part of what we're doing is creating a digital ecosystem, I'm going to call it a backbone, that actually services many of the initiatives around the firm. This is just one example of really about occupier experience. How are we going to technology enable? How do they get in? How do they check the gym? How do they order their coffee? How do they park? How do they get in and out of the building seamlessly using their phone? So that's just one example there. So one of the things I want to talk about is how we're approaching this. So I want to say thank you to Bill and Sarah, as well as the Distech video. I'm going to say yes, more of that, please. But I'm also hopefully going to add a new perspective to what you guys were talking about. This is how we think of technology. This is a simple chart for a reason. The bottom layer is you guys. There are source systems in the building that do the things they need to do. Access control system, BAS systems, sensors, elevators, the list goes on. And every building is a little bit different. So Hines not only develops buildings, but we buy buildings. So, we have a very heterogeneous environment in terms of what's in the building. Part of what we do is we actually add value to those buildings by upgrading the systems and bringing them up to cybersecurity standards, leasing the building, all of those things to increase value for the owner. And then ultimately, we do sell buildings. That's where you retrieve your value from those. So the systems in the buildings are super important to us. But we're never going to be in an environment where we standardize on one platform. Never. So I have to think about a portfolio view of how we address the digitization of real estate. We will take those systems in a building. We are standardized on a converged network technology. And then we really think in terms about data. So you guys heard a lot of messages about cybersecurity, data normalization. That's certainly important for the building. And I will just say, when I go from one building that maybe has Siemens in it and another building that has Siemens in it, those aren't the same Siemens today. So we really got to think through what are the standards that we want out of the individual technology provider too, because they're inconsistent today. But more importantly, I'm not going to standardize on one. That's cost prohibitive to do that. We buy a building, it has stuff in it, and sometimes it needs to be upgraded, it needs to be replaced, but many times it doesn't. So what I've got to do is I've got to take a portfolio of greater than 1,500 buildings across the globe with hundreds of different systems in there, and I've got to make it make sense. We've got to extract the value. We've got to be able to operate this more efficiently. And more importantly, I've got to give data back to our clients. We have tenants coming to us and say, I need to understand more about my footprint in the building. They too are trying to measure their carbon footprint. They too are trying to understand how people utilize space in their tenant floors. So, and of course, our investors want to know, as well, how's the building performing? And I'm not just talking operationally. So in order to do that, cloud. So look, I came from the IT world, I've been doing it for 30 years. I will say what we're faced with right now is really the convergence of OT and IT in a way y'all have never seen it before. So that's why a CTO is standing up here talking to you all about, you were really talking about IT world here. So take your systems, connect them to a network, and then aggregate them into a data layer. And that's why I'm here on stage with Code today. So one of the things I want to say to you guys is, look, you know, again, I've got to take a portfolio view. I'm going to be in a global environment. It'd be great if every one of you has an open API, has open architecture, you know, has cybersecurity standards, and connects to partners like Code. Code's not out there trying to be a BAS system. What they're trying to do is communicate, right? It's a compatible architecture to really extract more value out of the building for us. But more importantly, they become our data normalization layer. So every one of our buildings, so we have standardized on Code. Every one of our buildings will be connected to Code. So I'll be coming to many of you and saying, please help me take my building at 101 California, or 845 Texas Avenue, or 345 Hudson, or 600 Collins in Australia. And I'm gonna say, please help me connect to Code. Now, what Code needs you guys to do is be really good at your job, right? You know, have your optimization, make sure your sequencing and your programs and all of that's in order and works really well. That should be part of the commissioning of the building, because all they're doing is calling those programs. They're not replacing those programs, they're executing those programs, because what we're doing also in that layer is we're connecting the rest of what I'll call IT systems. So we're connecting sensors, we're connecting our work order systems, we're putting our preventive maintenance schedules in there. You know, we're pulling in debt data, we're pulling in lease data. We're gonna have a single pane of glass to be able to look at everything from an asset management perspective of a building. How do you operate it, and how do you manage it as a valuable product? That's what Code's doing here. So I really encourage you all. Some of y'all are on the forefront of this, and I won't name names, but I do want to say thank you from Hines' perspective that y'all have had the conversations and you're opening up to Code. And I will tell you, we're not the only one that's doing that. So, you know, my peers, I will say the CTO, CIO community is a very open community. We share everything. And so what I'm going to be talking about here today is really catching on. And at the top is our digital ecosystem, meaning once I have the data and everything's connected, I can then serve that up to anything that needs it. Our ESG group that's working hard on Hines' initiative to be net zero operational carbon by 2040, all this data is going to them. All this data is going to our client experience team. All of this data is going to other revenue generating initiatives as well. So this backbone is very important. Whoops. Oops, okay. So look, part of the outcome here is we think of things in terms of what is the benefit to the owner, and I won't go through all of these in great detail, but we also think of terms and things of what are the benefits to the occupier, and then ultimately, what are the benefits to us as a manager where we operate our buildings? And you know, what my point of this is to say is what we're doing out there serves many purposes. And what I don't think we have, yeah, we do. Okay, great. All right, so let me start here and say, why are we doing this, and you know, what's changing? This is the way it used to be. It's still the way it is in some places that I'm trying to fix. We used to try to take the systems in a building and have them talk to each other. You can see, I mean, just the graphic alone tells you everything you know. That is not sustainable. Most people weren't open architecture. You know, it was a you know, fight every single time to get all these things to try to talk to each other. So that is also not scalable from a global perspective. That's a single asset strategy, is connecting stuff in this building, and then I go to the next building, I connect everything in that building. You can't get anywhere like that. This is where we are. This is Code right here in the middle. Integrate it once, use it many times. So once I'm able to integrate with Honeywell, once I'm able to integrate with Siemens, once I'm able to integrate with ALC, the list goes on, right? I can do that once, and I can then scale that across all of my buildings. That is there then available for everything. And we all get new insights about these buildings. I mean, Hines thinks it's the best operator in the world now. I can tell you, when we've stood these things up, it was like, oh shit. Honestly, We had some things we have to go fix, but you don't know that until you start connecting everything. So cloud architecture is extremely important to us to be able to scale, have a single source of truth, and do that across the portfolio. So now I can take 500 buildings, they can all have different buildings, they can be in different countries, they can have different partners, and I can see everything through Code Labs that we need to be able to see. There's a lot of discussion about talent acquisition and the declining talent pool. We're in the same boat. So now with this kind of technology, and let me tell you, I have teenagers at home and talk about living with a phone in their hand. That expectation, that ubiquitous connectivity is an expectation for them. You know, if my son chooses to come into this world, he's going to expect everything to be sitting on a computer, and he can make data-driven decisions, and he can walk around with a mobile device, and that artificial intelligence is telling him these are the things that you need to focus on, stripping out all that noise. We have to get there, and he's going to be able to not just manage one building, he needs to be able to manage 50 at a time. So thank you all very much. If I leave you with a few things before I turn over to Etrit, is to say, you know, from a Hines perspective, please have a conversation with Code. We're looking for preferred partners. We want to, you know, the winners for me are going to be the ones that understand this isn't a competitive environment, this is a collaborative environment. We all win if people get back into the office, we all address our carbon initiatives, we can all get data out of the system, Hines can get back to developing new buildings, we can raise more capital to put more things in our buildings. We all win when we do that. Open architecture, open API. The one thing I didn't hear talked about today was zero trust architecture. Hugely important for us from a cybersecurity perspective. So thank you all very much. I hope this gives a little perspective of, we also think about a building. I got to think about hundreds and hundreds of buildings, and how do we perform and how do we scale. Hines has grand ambitions to grow, grand ambitions, and we're well suited right now to do that. I need your help to provide those services and amenities to our clients, please. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Stay over here.
Hey guys, pleasure to meet you all. I'm Etrit, I'm one of the co-founders of Code Labs. I think a good amount of you guys know who we are, but I will make it really quick and then kind of tie back the story to Hines and everything else with the offerings and what we're doing with our channel partners. We founded the company in October of 2017, but one thing that we're really proud of, and we want to continue to do this, and how we continue to do this is by having the right channel partners, is by keeping our 0% churn rate. We're doing business globally now, and nothing makes us more proud than delivering the best client service. We can all deliver technology, we can all deliver everything, but finding the right partners and building the best client service allows us to scale into other verticals much easier, and then know how that's working and stay behind them and continue to build for them and for their end users. I think from our perspective, we've been, some of the things that a lot of our channel partners and end users like Hines, not Honeywell, sorry, appreciate is that different verticals, we can still have the same type of platform with configurability and cost effectiveness, because that's a really big deal. Some of the products that we offer through our cloud platform is we can give different applications very easily and normalize globally, or regionally, locally, or for a campus, depending on, regardless of what they have within their buildings. Because it's easy for me to say regardless what they have within their buildings now, is because Hines and the rest are pushing everybody to be more open, so much easier to continue to keep scaling. Some of the things that differentiate us is we've been able to develop over 140 plus different APIs on the cloud, so then it's much easier for all channel partners. They can create their customizations for no code right now, but they can continue to turn things on and reuse a lot of things that they're doing from client to client with a separate database, with separate ownership for that data and everything else. And then some of the other applications we can go through more and more. Obviously, you can learn at the booth as well. We see net zero goals starting to change more and more because our clients, our channel partners are getting much more serious about this. And then our channel partners, end users, are demanding it. So us working directly with some enterprises like Hines, Quadrille, Ford, and many others that are in the room is allowing us now to be able to find data where, a Hines, for example, they have their own data hub. They don't just have code because they have many other things going on. But within their data hub, they're finding data where now they can go back, for a while, we have Niagara is Niagara. You guys know how powerful Niagara is. Don't need to tell you that. But now Siemens, Delta, Distech, and many of the others are already on our cloud. They're developing it themselves. They're building their own API. They're making sure that they're putting the investment in, because when you're doing over $100 million in business with somebody and they can tell that because now they have data to be able to tell that, kind of have, it starts to change the landscape. And the only way to really reach net zero is, like Sarah said earlier, HVAC's a big deal, right? And HVAC is one of the bigger problems. The other ones are easier to continue to keep going. So cloud allows us to build the right partnerships, but it's also allowing a lot of these different, system providers to really show what they've always wanted to show for a long time. And, they want to work with everybody too, right? So the direction is followed from our perspective by the large end users, and the end users are getting smarter. And not that they weren't smarter before, but they're hiring people who are really looking into this because AI and everything else is coming into place, and we're just not ready for it. Like, we can be honest with ourselves. There's nothing in buildings that's really ready to go deep and autonomous. But we can get there within 2-3 years if we do it together and do it right. This is where kind of talking about our blueprint for success for partners. It's a big one for us because we see that, when we started, we had to go direct. We had no choice because none of you guys would have used us, right? It's like, it's not possible. You wouldn't have trusted it. So we had to go and really scale and build it up and have a Hines and have some of the others show that, hey, we're looking at this completely differently. And to show the power of cloud, now with our channel partners, some of the things that we're able to do is give them multiple data sources much faster on the cloud, normalize their data. How we see it is we give them a big enough database where they can see how they should also be bringing things in. We allow them some openness, but really we give them a structure because they have to have a structure. And that structure is provided by many of the different open source protocols that are out there, as well as obviously what we think works well. And that's connecting and resonating well with these channel partners because they're offering it up to their clients and they're liking it and they're seeing value, they're seeing the difference. I think some of the other ones are, we just don't, I was a system integrator. I was in controls. We don't finish projects. It's really hard to finish projects. So we're building some tools like digital commissioning and other things to be able to at least digitally commission most of your systems and then continuing to keep going. Some of the things that we've been trying out that have been working really, really well and scaling is some white label offerings. And now that's going to be coming soon here shortly. But these are some amazing partners, obviously, that we have and many others. They've been trying it out. They're going much faster. They're really normalizing. And what we're seeing is they all have the recipe for success. And they have many systems that they're installing and offering. But what they do need more and more of now is smarter service. They can't just do the same thing. They have to be able to go further, and they have to be able to do more with less. So that's kind of what we're trying to offer more and more. Do we have it all? No, we don't. But what we do have is the ability to listen and hear closely what everybody wants and needs and build it fast, because that's what we do. And that's kind of what helps us continue to keep going. Some of the other parts I'm going to make this quick because you guys are used to these type of presentations, but these are all in the cloud. A big one for us is where Jeannie's actually helped us with her team. They work together with us because they had many different work orders, right? We always got this right, but never really, really got it right because there was always so many issues. And now working with Hines at the global level, we can comfortably say that we are the closest we've ever been to automating workflows and tying digital commissioning and everything to that, and then obviously working with the rest. Because even these guys, have no choice but to open up now. So it's not just us that we've never opened up more, but everybody has to open. Some of the things that we're doing now and why we're also partnered with Cochrane Supply and everybody else. With Cochrane, what we're doing is we're updating more and more of the specifications for these larger clients. And some of them that are here that we're talking about, we're trying to keep it more open. And that's a very vague thing to say, but what we mean by that is, in the cloud, you may have 1 or 2 Hines buildings. You may have 10 Hines buildings. You may have many other buildings. We have a Launchpad. It's a true enterprise platform, but it has cybersecurity there. It has everything else that you need. And then you get access to those buildings because they're owned by Hines, right? So just like the property's owned by Hines and everything else is owned by Hines, it's easier to get access. It's easier to pre-qualify to do more. And then it's easier to see everything on code and through the Hines, let's say, database. I think from our roadmap and what we're doing this year, we like to, obviously, our goal is we want to continue to go fast because people need things faster and they need it right away because they're on projects, they're on different things that they have going on. Some of the things that we're seeing more and more now is we are putting out a preventive maintenance tool. So you're going to be able to schedule what kind of service, everything you need to do within your floor plans, within buildings, within the calendars, with 5 to 10 minutes, because most of those engineers and property managers need it, and they have it kind of separately, and sometimes it's living in smart sheets, maybe work orders, maybe other places. So we're allowing that to happen because a lot of our channel partners that you kind of see want that too, and they want to be able to offer that because it makes their service smarter and it allows them to see what's happening and then see digital commissioning right there. We have another 35 plus APIs that are coming out this year. We are working on a lot of, some research stuff that we have going on, but one of the big ones is we're developing the tool where no one is going to need to actually build or develop APIs on our platform. You have an API, you can do it just like you program a building, no code whatsoever. You'll be able to do it by yourself within 2-3 days. So that $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 charge that you get to build an API is going to be gone. And that's going to allow you to be more competitive, but also the end users to have what they need at much better prices. Intuitive Partner Hub, 15 seconds. So I think the last thing that we have is it's really great to see how we're moving along. It's actually amazing. For us, it was really hard from 2017 until 2022, really, because nobody believed in cloud. Everybody said cloud is not safe, it's not secure, all that crazy stuff. And we were building on the cloud, right? So we had some really good believers, and now it's moving really fast. We've been profitable for that reason because we don't want to go and have to beg for money or tell people that, because you guys earn your money. You're profitable. This is what keeps you going. For us, we've been profitable since day one. We did get a $30 million investment, $8 million investment about 1.5 years ago. We have all that money still, which is allowing us to really prepare now for the next 2, 3, 4 years of what research and development we really need to do, what's going to work, what's not going to work. And because of our partnership programs, we're starting to learn a lot more what our channel partners want. And even some of our OEMs, like Legrand and others, they're starting to build on the platform. So we think that we do need to obviously everybody needs to make hardware smarter. And we need to work more and more together, right? And now, with cloud being a thing, we're really excited for that. So
you don't have that money, I'm going to spend it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, guys. And
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey, before you guys go, real quick. So I think for a lot of us, we're focused on on-prem or putting a system into a building, typically not connecting it to the internet per se. To use cloud resources is pretty common, right, today. Now, just question for you two. Mm-hmm. And again, we're talking all cloud here, right? This is all cloud stuff. This is nothing actually goes in the building from code. It's you guys are 100% cloud service provider. And so the question is, for the community, in front of the community is, I mean, like for you, Jeannie, I guess that's the question is like, What would it take to do it without, like, could you even accomplish your goals that you've been given if you didn't have a cloud perspective to it? Or with,
no, not at all. And I'll say a few things actually. So it's been mentioned before, so it's not news, but interoperability is a problem. That's where something like code and a cloud layer comes in. We're a global company. How do I connect 30 countries and get that data? Because we have investors that invest all across the country. So they want to know, what do my investments look like? Well, okay, you're in 16 countries and you have 18 buildings, how do we do that? But I want to say this, and I'll tell you, this is my current thinking, because everything is an evolution, right? So part of what's holding us up now is some technologies are not cloud capable, and so that limits our ability to integrate. So we're often having to put edge devices in and other things in to kind of make them cloud-like. That all needs to go away. I've got to squeeze as much dollars out of that as possible. But I'll also tell you from our operations and engineering perspective, their folks is, look, you can lose connectivity to a cloud. That can happen. I grew up in Houston. We have hurricanes. Stuff happens. So being able to operate the building locally when there's a disconnected circumstance is still important. So that doesn't mean you're completely off-prem, but it means you're thinking more along the lines of run and maintain, kind of cached, operational sequencing and all those things so you can keep running for a small period of time. You're not going to be without the internet forever, but you could be without it for a week while Houston Lighting and Power is getting everything back online. Yep. So, having a hybrid approach, but I'll say cloud first, is really where we're headed, but we do understand from a disaster recovery perspective, business continuity perspective, the buildings still need to stand on their own. So that to me is a hybrid approach.
Yep. I can just add one quick thing.
Please.
You have to have obviously on-prem. You guys know this, but the thing is, the landscape is changing. Like, for a while, Hines knows this, everybody else does. If you have somebody sitting on the third floor of a basement with a server right there and a really bad desktop, they're not going to help you meet net zero ESG goals because they're literally sitting in jail. So you got to kind of like move that up a little bit and change the mindset. And I think it seems like it's happening. So it's great to hear.
So cloud is here to stay, folks. So let's just all get used to it, shall we?
Please,
all right?
please.
So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you
Very
all.
good job.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Okay, so you guys are hungry for lunch, but we got one more important speaker coming up. So we talked quite a bit about the cloud, and of course, we all know on-prem or in the buildings, we need some software, don't we? Something to tie everything together, something to put it on a network, something to normalize data, something to manage the network devices. Anybody know a software that does that? Anybody? No? Really? Okay, well then I get to introduce you to, no, I'm kidding. You all know this software. So I'd like to introduce Andy D'Amelio. Andy's the Vice President, General Manager at Tritium. Come on up, Andy. Andy is new to the role in the industry, so we're super happy to have him. And welcome
Thanks, Scott.
to the stage, Andy.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate that welcome. And Jeannie, in case you were wondering, Niagara 100% communicates with code, so don't worry. You're all set with Niagara. Well, hey, it's really my pleasure to come up here and talk to you for a few minutes this morning. I'll go for probably 8 to 10 minutes, and I'm going to bring Stephen Halicki, our Chief Product Officer, up to talk more in detail about Niagara and the framework and where we're going. But Scott was gracious enough to give me a chance to introduce myself. And so I joined Tritium, a little less than 6 weeks ago. So April 1st, April Fool's Day, was my first day coming with the company, and I really couldn't be happier. And so I spent the majority of my career in the controls and automation space. I've been in the process space, retail, warehousing, not so much in buildings, so I have a lot to learn when it comes to buildings, but I think a lot of the issues and a lot of the changes certainly resonate within this industry. So today I live right outside of Philadelphia in South Jersey, soon to relocate to Richmond, Virginia, which is where Tritium is headquartered. And I had the opportunity to join our Niagara Summit about 3 weeks ago. And so I got up and talked there as well, and I had an opportunity to meet with some of you that are in the room, and I had an opportunity to meet Scott, our host. And so I'm going to just tell a little story about how that first meeting went. And I didn't know if I should share that until I saw him come out with the astronaut suit. And I'm like, you know what? It's kind of open game. So we had our Niagara Summit event, and there was a networking event after hours, and one of my colleagues introduced me to Scott. And for those of you that know Scott, he does not hold back. He is very knowledgeable and very passionate. And so he and I chatted for a bit. I kind of listened, he chatted. And that went on maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then I had to get pulled away to go do something else. And as I was walking away, I said, you know what, like there's more here. I want to go back and I want to hear more. And when I came back, his eyes lit up and he's like, did you come back for one more round? And I said, I did, because I could tell that anything I heard from him was only going to help myself, Niagara, and Tritium get better. So I just wanted to share that story, and I want to thank you for what you bring to this industry, because it really is refreshing. So how about a round of applause for our host? And of course, being close to Philadelphia, you always have to weave a Rocky story in everything, right? All right, so let me just talk a little bit about the partnership that I think Niagara brings. And so most of the presenters that came up here today actually talked about this platform, talked about our company, and we exist really for one reason, and that's to make you successful. It's a very interesting business model that we have. It's something, and I've worked in all kind of different business models, so it's a little unique for me, but we help you create. We help you add value to your own businesses and add value to your end users, and that's not going to change. And so we're just going to keep doing more of that. So when I think of the power partnership with Niagara, I think of five items, and two of them are probably two of the most important. So first is the innovation, which when Stephen comes up, he'll talk to you about all the investments we're making and where we're going, and that'll continue. Next is the enablement, and when I try to sum up Niagara in one word, that's really it. Again, we try to enable this community to be better. We try and enable this community to add value. And then the community enables us. It's actually quite interesting, because there's this whole give and take where we come out with something and then you tell us ways to potentially make it better, and then we go do that, and then we show you something new, and then you get better. And it's really, really something to see, and it's quite infectious. We're committed to having the knowledge that you need. And so we have a full dedicated staff, and whenever you run into an issue, you just call us, and we'll help you solve. And if we can't solve it, we'll create a solution for it. And I think we've been doing that for probably 30 years. From a teamwork perspective, I've never worked with a group of people that have just been so willing to jump in and help each other and help drive this industry forward. It's really quite refreshing. And then last is community. And this is the one that really stuck with me, because our success depends on you. And I've spent my whole career in channel-based businesses. And so I know what it's like to be a part of a channel. I know what it's like to run a successful channel, and I know that unless we're enabling you to go add value to your own companies and your clients, then we're not doing the right thing. So that commitment will continue to stay. And so this community that we've built together, I think about the importance of that, and as I continue to learn, buildings are a part of everything we do every day. Every single day in our personal lives, our professional lives. And what you do is make it better. And you do it in so many different ways. I'll just touch on a few, but the whole idea of healthier and safer spaces. So you will see that the Niagara framework will continue to evolve around that. All the new compliance requirements and making sure that every building becomes more efficient. We spent a lot of our time around that as well. All the energy transformation that's taken place, not only in the US, but globally, that's a big part of our roadmap as well. And just with the conversations I've had last night and this morning, a lot of those conversations took place. And then, of course, AI. And I kind of look at the Niagara framework as very foundational for this AI explosion that's happening, because it really is a way to kind of aggregate all the data and provide access to that. And so, again, really over 30 years of innovation, I don't see it stopping. 1999 was the first time that Niagara was really launched. And just recently, the end of last year, early this year, we came out with the Jace 9000, which Stephen will talk about, and then, of course, our cloud offerings as well. And through this journey, we've had tremendous relationships with our channel as well as some key users. And Bedrock is one of those key users, which we serve back through Cochrane. And at this point, they were gracious enough to allow us to do a video. And so I'm going to kick this video off.
Detroit has had a long history of ups and downs. I'm happy to be a part of a company that is helping it come out of some difficult financial times. Bedrock chose Tritium Niagara because it's really the only product that does what we need it to do.
We wanted to have a one-point access into our systems, and we didn't have that prior to running the Niagara infrastructure. It allowed us to have a remote access into every building we have in Detroit and Cleveland, and we could do everything from one central mission control hub that we have, or our engineering team on their cell phones. It made us very mobile and very efficient.
Niagara helps us resolve issues every single day. I can respond within minutes to a call. We can have like a gas leak outside. We can respond remotely and close off all the outside air dampers portfolio-wide. We work with our utility companies as well to improve the programming of air handlers or major mechanical systems to save on energy, gas usage, water usage, electrical usage.
Every company has sustainability goals in this day and age. Most companies have no idea how they're going to get there. With Niagara, we can show the before and after effect.
I'd say we have on average a 30% electrical consumption reduction in our buildings. When you can schedule your lighting to be on during occupied hours only, and you can schedule your HVAC to be on during occupied hours only from one central hub, and you do this portfolio wide between two cities, 66 buildings, approaching 15 million square feet, it reduces a lot of energy usage.
We have an unusual place here in Detroit. We control the majority of the commercial real estate in the central business district. So to be able to control all of the tenants' comfort within those buildings through one product, Niagara, that attracts tenants downtown. That improves the downtown experience. It's bustling down here every weekend. I'm happy to be a part of that.
All right, well, once again, I'd like to thank Bedrock for allowing us to do that. I think it's a really nice case study and talks about some of the useful applications for Niagara. So everybody that presented talked about this inflection point that we're in as an industry and the transformation that the industry's going through, and I think the speed of change. And any technology environment, there becomes that point where the speed of change starts to accelerate. I think Bill called it a few different things as well, crossing the abyss, which is a little more biblical than maybe I'd explain it, but that's probably an accurate way to describe it as well. And so even if you look at Niagara and kind of how that's taken off, I think it took us 11 years to get to 200,000 instances, and then another 11 years to get to 1 million instances. So that was a gain of 800,000. I think in the next year, we'll add another 800,000. So we'll be almost up to 2 million instances, and what you could see is we're almost cutting those years in half and in half and in half. And so before you know it, we'll be 2 million, 3 million, potentially 5 million. So I really see this adoption of technology taking off, and now's our time to continue to make a difference in this industry. And of course, one of the ways we're trying to make a difference is through Niagara Cloud. And so everybody talked about cloud and the importance of cloud, and I think each of you are dealing with that and learning and implementing that in your own way. And for us, the message is pretty simple. So we want to take all the goodness of the Niagara framework. It's pervasive, it's everywhere, it's secure, it's intuitive, and we want to make it simple for you to be cloud enabled. And so in a nutshell, that's what we're trying to do, so that you can add value easier to your businesses and your clients. And so we're out there to partner, to make it better, and to make it, again, an enabler for you as you evolve in your cloud strategy. So please continue to have those discussions with us, because just like the Niagara framework is an enabler for this community, Niagara Cloud should also be an enabler for this community. And again, as you talk about AI, you need to aggregate the data somehow, and what a great way to go do that. And so something else that we're just kicking off, and this is kind of hot off the presses, but we felt strongly enough that this whole cloud differentiation, it requires a level of support and a level of commitment and a level of knowledge. And so we have just introduced a new level to our partner program, and I'm happy to announce that Cochrane is the first member to enter that program. So now Cochrane is an authorized cloud distributor for Niagara. And so that means that they've invested in cloud. They have the knowledge to support you, to educate you, to teach you. And they will continue to do that, and that's how they got to that tier. And in addition to that, we're looking to roll out a cloud-enabled or a cloud-authorized tier for our system integrators as well. And so more to come on that, but as we continue to invest together, that's really what this is about, so that we could show our community that we're educated, we're investing, and we're behind the whole cloud movement. So more to come on that. That's a bit fresh off the presses. And so, as we've all said, the industry is transforming. And there's no better to talk about how the Niagara framework is transforming than our own Steve Holicki, Chief Product Officer. So at this time, I'll exit and I'll welcome Steven up to the stage. Thanks for your time this morning. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Andy.
All right.
Appreciate it. All right. Thanks again for attending ControlsCon. It's great to see everyone. I know we saw a few of you at the summit a couple weeks ago, and so if you were there, you get to see the greatest hits on stage here, because it's going to be pretty close to that, with a couple of changes. Of course, one thing that I'm uniquely aware of is how close we are to lunch, so I'll ensure that I don't block you from that. Of course, if you have any questions about what we're presenting today, Vicon booth is right there. We've got a group of sellers, we've got account reps, we've got product managers that are ready to assist with any question that you might have. So my name is Stephen Holicki. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Tritium. And prior to joining Tritium 5 years ago, I was an SI, like you guys. So I was working for a firm out of Chicago, and we were doing every bit of retrofit, recommissioning, design spec, you name it. And at the heart of what we did was specifying the use of Niagara. And the reason why is because, similar to many of the people that presented today, we realized the power that it brings. And we realized the enablement, to keep to that central theme, that it ensures. And so, as we go forward, I think one thing I want you to kind of realize is that you have seen a consistent message from all the speakers today. And I think those themes are what's driving our direction. And when we talk about the state of the built environment, there's been plenty of discussions about, well, we've got a lot of commercial loans that are going to be coming due here shortly. We don't know what building owners are going to do. Are they just going to give them back to the banks? And then what does that do to all these retrofit opportunities that we have? Well, logic would state that you would, or reason rather, that you would see these opportunities start to slow down, but that's not the case. That's not the case, because in the past year, the non-residential construction industry has added over 258,000 jobs. So if indeed we are facing a slowdown, then how do we explain that? And the same follows. March had a historical increase, but we followed suit with April as well. So the Department of Labor, as they routinely do, provides statistics on the number of jobs added per vertical, per region, per industry. And non-residential construction continues to grow month over month. And so the state of the built environment is strong, it's resilient. And it's something I think you are able to leverage today. And of course, it empowers your business. So a couple other things that are driving our landscape: the rapid digitization and artificial intelligence. Jim Young did a great job of really canvassing the entire topic, of giving you some use cases, examples. But the thing is I really want to reinforce that this age of artificial intelligence, it's right now. And from a Tritium perspective, we are committed to ensuring putting the right features, the right value into the product for you all to be able to really take advantage of it. Because we don't want to get left behind. We want to be as proactive, as forward-thinking as possible. And I think you've heard it, whether it be from Ken Sinclair, from Bill Schweibel. These trends are emerging at a rapid pace. And so it is extremely paramount that we provide the right capabilities within the product to be able to get you guys to take advantage of them. So another thing that's driving it, decarbonization and electrification. The connected power product that Sarah just reviewed, that all has integration with Niagara. And so that's one thing that we recognize that's occurring more and more. Have to get down to that plug load control. And you think about the amount of energy consumption that you generate just from those. And given we know that the buildings are the energy hogs, this is going to be increasingly important. And so from a market driver, this is something that's really directing what we're doing. Now, I know it's more than just capabilities and functionality, it's also how you license it. And those are things that we've been listening to the market about. And as we continue to migrate the framework, as we continue to evolve our go-to-market, those are things that we're committed to ensuring we have the right pricing in place to support what you all do on a day-to-day. Of course, decarbonization, I think we've had a number of at least line items on slides about that. And so that, I think, speaks to itself. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time about that because our speakers have done an exceptional job at covering that. And even Hines, I think, had a great segue about that as well. And so it doesn't matter where you find yourself within the world, these major market drivers are impacting your day-to-day. It doesn't matter if you participate in the industry or if you're an actual consumer of goods and technologies within that space, it still impacts you. But of course, all of these things, really, it doesn't matter if you do not have security baked into the core of your product. And so that is why our mantra is secure by default. What it does is it reflects our commitment to ensuring that we spend, from my perspective, of course, I want to see as many new features as possible, but you would probably be surprised at how much time we spend just on security items. Now, those aren't something that I can just put up on a slide and say, hey, look at all these great things we're doing for you all. Aren't you happy? We understand that it's way more than that. Because again, if you do not have a secure product, you don't have a product at all. Because the minute that you are compromised, it's over. I mean, think about it. Just today, the Wichita Police Department, victim of a ransomware attack. It's like every single week we're hearing about this. And as I just mentioned, the increasing digitization of our entire world, of the built environment. So as that happens, does that increase the surface area for a threat? I would say it does. And that's why when it comes to cybersecurity, we are committed to ensuring that we spend more hours than I would like to ensuring that this product is as robust as possible. Because again, these aren't things, glitz, glamour, no. It's at the heart of what we do. It's our foundation, and it's not something that we will compromise on. So, given these trends, given the market landscape, we understand that unparalleled flexibility is absolutely essential to ensuring we're all able to take advantage of these new trends, these drivers. But then also you have a product that you can turn to enable that. No matter where you find yourself in the construction process and the retrofit process, you have to have the flexibility within the product to be able to deploy it in the way that you need in order to meet the design spec, in order to reduce the amount of labor that you ordinarily would put into a job. And then a commitment to open. Jeannie brought this up. Can all these vendors integrate with code? Yes, we believe in it. In fact, it doesn't matter what that application is. We believe that you can turn to the Niagara framework to get you that data. We'll normalize it, we'll aggregate it into an independent data layer that can be extended in the product itself, or it can be in any cloud application that you wish. And as Andy said, our investment into the cloud is a clear indicator of that strategy. And we're not going to stop either. So as we get a little bit deeper into the discussion here in a few moments, I'll show you exactly what we're doing and how we are going to provide that in the days ahead. So data integrity. That's one thing that's extremely important, right? Because the age of artificial intelligence, really you can't get there without normalized, clean data. And so that data integrity, as we move ahead, is going to be so important for us to be able to achieve these outcomes and to be able to get to the point where Bill said, 5 years, we're going to have fully autonomous buildings. It has to start with the integrity of the data. If you don't have it, then these outcomes that we're trying to pitch here, it's just not going to work. And so that's why we are committed to ensuring that the platform always gives you the ability to trust that data. And then, as I mentioned, at the heart of it all is that old secure by default mantra. And that's not something that we will compromise. And at the heart of it all is the Niagara framework. So, Niagara 414 is coming soon. We are currently in beta right now. And if you haven't had the opportunity to try out 414, well, you still have an opportunity. Stop by the booth and let them know that you're interested, and we will get you signed up. We're hoping to get this out the door about probably the first week or two of July. So that's something that you can expect to see here and the weeks ahead. So from a 414 perspective, we've got a number of great things that we built into the product. So I'll start with the JACE 9000 because that's new for 413. And if you're wondering, when you tried out the JACE 9000 or the FX90 or the J9000 or the A9000 or the Han 9000, whatever you call it, you know, one thing that you realize is that, hey, were there a couple things that the JACE 8000 did that the 9000 didn't? I mean, yes. And the reason why is because we've been incrementally adding value to the JACE. We wanted to get it out the door, but with 414, we have completed the picture, or rather with 415 we will, but 414's going to give you support. We do have 802.1x support now with the JACE 9000 and DHCP server support on that secondary NIC card. So if any of you out there have tried to use DHCP on the JACE 9000, you got to use 414. So just to let you know. From a visualization perspective, we did have a Tritium talk this week, or rather last week. And I covered some of the new HTML5 views that we have available. And there are many of them. One thing that we did is we took the manager interface that you commonly use to bring in devices and points to the workbench. We've extended that all to to the browser and built it in HTML5. And the reason we did this, of course, is to provide you the flexibility on how you deploy and interact with the product. You don't always need the thick client. You can use the browser from time to time, and if you've got a IT department at a customer site that does not like you plug in your computer into their switches or onto their network, well, perfect. As long as they've got that workstation on that network, or rather a workstation on the network, you can just pull up the IP address of that device and get to programming. Now, another thing that we've done with 414 is work on certificates. So with 413, we brought the certificate manager to the browser, but with 414, we have introduced a certificate signing service. Now, If I remember the transition from AX to N4, more actually specifically when Fox S or encrypted Fox communications were introduced, certificates were the bane of my existence. I begrudgingly accepted them. And I might have cursed the Tritium a few times too, saying, why in the hell are you making me do this? For what reason? But it's security at the end of the day, secure by default. That's something we can't compromise on. And the reason why is because if it's unencrypted, a nefarious actor can just get access to that wire, can figure out exactly what is going on within that data packet. If you're using backdate over IP, you can see every bit of information that you need. And so certificates is really that great feature that helps us encrypt those communications. And so what we've done with 414 is we've taken the headache out of the management of certificates. So you all have probably encountered a case whereby a certificate is expired and your customer's calling you and saying, why are these points showing as yellow? What's going on here? Get your ass out here, fix it. And you probably knew it then. You were like, certificate expired. That has been a common pain point. So what we did in 414 is we've created a mechanism to be able to automatically rotate those certificates, such that you never have to hear one of those calls again from your customers about those points being yellow just because the certificate expired. Now how it works is you have a supervisor with JACEs underneath it. And within that supervisor station, it's going to host a certificate signing service. And all those JACEs, and of course speaking with the supervisor using Fox S, whenever their certificate is about to expire, it'll say, hey, give me a new certificate. Or it serves up what we call a certificate signing request. And then that supervisor signs it using its certificate authority and then pushes it back to that subordinate station such that you never had to hear from the customer about the comms going down. It just works. And more importantly, it's secure. And so we've implemented that in Fox, but we've also done it in our web service as well. And then if you are accustomed to integrating with cloud endpoints using our MQTT driver, we've done the same thing with that against AWS endpoints. The reason we did this, again, is to remove that extra hit on your workflow. If you are still in the warranty period when that happens, you know you're paying for that trip out to the site. And that's one thing we want to eliminate. We want to ensure we've got the right capabilities into the product to empower your workflow, but also to ensure the security of that instance. Again, it's not something we're going to compromise on at all. Now, in addition to that, of course, keeping true to that security story, plenty of new authentication methods have been added as well. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about those, stop by the booth or email Tritium beta test at tritium.com and we will get you started on a test of 414. Now, when we talk about data contextualization, ontologies, things like that, Haystack has been supported in the Niagara framework for many years. But with 414, we decided that we were going to implement support for Brick. So if you haven't got a chance to use Brick, which I think most of us really haven't because we've been so accustomed to seeing Haystack, but if you have had the opportunity to use it, you'll be pleased to know that we do have support in Niagara 414 for the Brick ontology. Now, it's been implemented as a tag dictionary, so it's going to be very similar to how you deploy a tag dictionary today. Drag and drop into your tag dictionary service, and then you're going to have some predefined tag rules that will actually map those classifications per that Brick standard. So, but Central Niagara too, remember, you can have multiple tag dictionaries that you install. So if you have one in place today, don't worry about it. Nothing's going to happen to that. You can add the Brick one if you want to be able to take advantage of some of those new asset classes and relationships that are reinforced through Brick. But Niagara 415 is coming. We're working on that as well. And so with 415, which is going to be coming in Q1 of next year, we have finally gotten to the point where we've got that feature parity with the JACE 8000. So the JACE 9000 will support Wi-Fi with version 415. Now, I know for the most part, if you're operating within tightly regulated environments, they might not want you using the Wi-Fi. And so in those events, you're probably ordering the non-Wi-Fi JACE, which is okay. But we're starting to see some industry movements heading back towards wireless. I think you've seen that today too. You've seen it through some of the product showcases and demonstrations by Sarah, for example, showing that wireless mesh technology that's integrating all of those connected power sockets into a Niagara station. And we're actually seeing now more customers say, hey, I want to use the Jace as an access point, so I don't have to plug in to the Jace to be able to do any configuration when I'm on site. And so that's going to be coming with version 4.15. Another thing that is coming with 4.15, I mean, I've been talking quite a lot about visualizations, moving things to HTML5, but we've got the PX editor coming with 4.15. So that's all going to move to the browser. And if you were like me, when you first started using Niagara, that was one of the most exciting things, because if you came from more of a mechanical background, you probably never got the opportunity to build out a web page. But Niagara really brought that experience forward. You take people that were used to installing condensers, pumps, working on air handlers, motors, and things like that, and the next thing you know, they're building out a web page that operators are utilizing to remotely control their equipment. And so that's going to be coming with version 4.15. Now, in addition to that, we've got, this one's exciting, because I've spoken a lot about Fox, and if you know those IT departments, what's one thing they hate doing? They're like, you want to open port what? 4911, what, why? Why do you need that? That doesn't make any sense. And from an IT perspective, you get it. Right? I mean, what they're trying to do is to ensure the security and stability of the network which they manage. And so when they see you asking to open up special ports from their perspective, they're going to question it. And I guarantee you every year they're going to review it and say, you know what, I want to close it. And I'm sure there's a couple of you that have been impacted by that, where the IT department just summarily just says, 4911, stop, close that port. Inbound, outbound, everything, doesn't matter. So what we've done with 4.15 is we are now wrapping that Fox traffic with a WebSocket. And so what that means for all of you is that no more 4911. So the WebSocket ensures that you can operate over port 443, which is your standard HTTPS port. So what that's going to do, again, that's one less haggle you have to do with the IT department. And then as we continue to evolve the framework moving forward, that's how we're going to wrap Fox traffic in the days ahead. And again, when you hear people say, Fox's proprietary protocol, again, we're using that that's been an essential part of the Niagara framework for many years, but what they'll always point to is the port, special ports. Again, we don't feel like you need to do that. That's one thing we want to remove from your workflow. We want to take that headache out of the picture. And again, going forward, that's going to ensure the stability of the product in the years ahead. 4.15 is going to be our next long-term support release. So keep that in mind. If you've been using version 4.10, and many have, and it's been on the market since March of 2021, 4.15 is going to replace that. So as soon as 4.15 gets released, 4.10's not going to be supported anymore, and then 4.15 will be our official long-term support release. We are committed to supporting version 4.15, I'd say through Q3 of 2028. So that's giving you a healthy runway there at the moment. When it gets released, it's going to give you over 3.5 years of support. Now what we'll do is kind of similar to what we've been doing today with 4.10. Every 90 days or so, you're going to get an update. And the whole point of that is to ensure that when a customer scans that software, they produce a report that says, hey, these libraries are out of date. I see the Java version's got a couple vulnerabilities. Update it, please. The whole point of that 90-day cadence is to ensure that you've got a version you can turn to that does not have those vulnerabilities, that features the latest and up-to-date support libraries, so that you don't have to say, I can't do that right now. Rather, what you can say is, sure, yeah, there's a version available. And then when we talk about where we're taking the cloud here in a few minutes, you'll see why that's so important. So I'm going to take this opportunity to move on to the Niagara Cloud Suite, because I think this is a good segue. So if you haven't heard about the Niagara Cloud Suite in particular. It's something that we've been building on over the past 2 years or so, 2.5 years. And so in 2023, we introduced Niagara Data Service, and Niagara Recover followed in September, and of course, we just released Niagara Remote. So I'm going to use this opportunity to show you all a nice video about what we've done with the Niagara Cloud Suite before I show you where we're heading.
The way we use buildings is changing, and so are the businesses that support them. They both need to be more flexible, more agile, and better streamlined for success. With the all-new Niagara Cloud Suite, you can break free from on-prem limitations to remotely configure, recover, and analyze supported Niagara instances from across the portfolio, helping you reduce support costs, expand your service offerings, and unlock your creativity. Niagara Cloud Suite is made up of 3 offerings. Niagara Remote is a way to remotely access any supported Jace or Niagara Supervisor without a VPN or third-party services. Configure, troubleshoot, and look at trend data from anywhere to help reduce site visits, compare buildings, and streamline your operations. Niagara Recover enables cloud-based backups for supported Jace and Supervisor configurations without third-party solutions. You can store and access a set number of backups directly in the Niagara Cloud, managed by a team you trust, helping you implement a more stable, more secure recovery strategy. And finally, Niagara Data Service takes the guesswork out of managing building data. It allows for simple remote access to long-term historical trend data to help troubleshoot from anywhere. Data Service also collects, cleans, and stores data, helping building stakeholders implement their insights platform of choice and get the results they need. Niagara Cloud Suite prepares your business for the next era of streamlined, scalable, connected services. But the best part? Supported Jace and Supervisors already have what you need to get started. No additional hardware, software, or training needed. It's one more reason Niagara is the digital change engine for buildings.
That's right, folks. And if you have a Jace or Supervisor today that you want to try out Remote and Recover on, perfect. We've got a 90-day trial that you can use. Stop by our booth. Let Nicole, who's sitting over there, know that you're interested, and we will get you signed up. So let's talk about where we're taking the Niagara Cloud Suite, since you know what it does today. So Niagara Remote was just released in February. So this is something I think that's going to pick up some momentum here in the months ahead. And again, what this does is it provides you the capability to log into a Niagara instance from anywhere, but more importantly, securely. I think, again, you've heard me say it a couple times, secure by default. That's something that we reinforced and ensured that we had in place with Niagara Remote. And so as we continue to expand the scope of offerings that support our Niagara Cloud Suite, you can expect to see this on many portability or many what we call third-party hardware that's actually running Niagara. So that includes things like the optimizer, it includes the edge. It includes, for example, perhaps even some things from JCI as well. You never know. Maybe a couple of things we have in store for that. And so that's one thing that you can expect in the days ahead, is that you're going to have this built-in remote connectivity capability that just comes with the product in general. Moving on to Niagara Recover. So again, that's going to provide you insurance for that Niagara station. It's going to give you the ability to automatically back up your stations. You don't have to touch it. It just goes to the cloud, and it's there when you need it. Now, what we're going to use Recover for is to solve another one of those problems that perhaps we've created by virtue of this 90-day release cadence. So if we're producing a new version of Niagara at scale and doing it as such, you all need the ability to be able to pull these updates down in this kind of the same fashion as you do with a browser, for example. And so with Niagara Remote, we're going to use this as the primary service to be able to enable those remote updates, such that when we produce a U3, U4, U5, you can just pick that up in the same way that you do today with your browser. And there's more things that are in store for Niagara Recover as well, because that ability to be able to recover when you're experiencing disaster. You've had a supervisor that's gone down, let's say, because you had a condenser water pipe that burst on a floor and it's leaking through the network closet. Server's down, I didn't back it up. What do I do? Well, if you're just using recover today, you can go pull the backup and then, of course, restore that station. But what about the idea where you actually have the opportunity to get that installed just with a couple clicks? That type of kind of instant restoration is what we want to deliver within the product and in the years ahead. Now, we know that's quite the undertaking, just given all the edge cases, but given the environment that we're facing, given the market landscape, it's never been more important than it is today for us to provide those capabilities. And so when you think about what we're doing with the cloud, we are augmenting, extending the capabilities of the core and into the cloud, where it makes sense, though. We're not just going to move everything, because I think, Jeannie brought it up. What happens when that cloud connection goes down? Well, presumably you have the right distributed control within that network architecture such that there's no issue to the actual operation of the building when that cloud connection goes down. And so this type of resiliency, I think, is going to be that much more important in the days ahead. So from a Niagara data service perspective, this one's exciting. And the reason why is because everybody wants an API. Hey, can you give me an API so I can integrate this data with my cloud application? So thankfully, we already have that integration in place with Code. But this is a great opportunity for Code and others to migrate to our more efficient, improved, streamlined, and much more capable Niagara Cloud Suite service. And the data service in particular is going to give you the ability to automatically export your model, which is your tags and relations, your histories, your alarms, live values, and export that all to the cloud without you knowing about it. And then it can be retrieved by any application out there just through a simple API call. So of course, security is baked into what we do. So those are authenticated API calls, of course. But we've given more, too, because we've provided the capability to write back to the site. So if you have that analytics application, it's sitting in the cloud, it's harnessing semantically enriched data so that it can actually provide the right corrective output to that site. That's exactly what data service enables. And we talk about this age of artificial intelligence. How do we get there? Again, you have to have the data. And so ensuring that you have the contextualized data, you can access it when you need it, and you won't impact the station either. Because think about that. If you have an application that's wanting to say, let me look at 2 years of the chilled water supply temperature from this chiller, and let me also look at the positions of the valves on every one of the air handling units. If you queried a station for that, you guys know exactly what type of hit it would take. You might see engine watchdog timeout. You might see it just pull to a crawl. But that's why we pushed it to the cloud. You saw the architecture that Jeannie presented. You had the control elements down at the bottom, and in the middle, you had databases. Again, that's where it makes sense to push this stuff into the cloud. And so with Niagara Data Service, we've provided that capability to do it. And if you've ever had the opportunity to push something to the cloud using MQTT, you've quickly realized that formatting a JSON schema is a little bit more difficult. It usually involves a lot of trial and error, and it's not scalable. We've taken all that guesswork, all of that labor out of the picture so that you can get it where you need to get it and do it at scale. And so with the cloud, we're viewing this as one of these primary kind of drivers to getting us to this real age of autonomous buildings. Because again, it has to start with the data and has to be really in a reliable, scalable way. But of course, we're not just focusing on the Niagara Cloud, because we're also thinking about and working on the next generation of the Niagara framework. So at the summit, we introduced that we are working on Niagara 5. It's something that's been a long time in the making. Niagara 4 was introduced in about 2016. So we're here 8 years later. Now you might ask, why are you doing this? Why are you disrupting what we're doing? Well, we're disrupting for a couple of reasons. Of course, one of them is security, because Niagara 4 uses Java 8. And Java 8 is going to be end of life here within a few years. We do not want you all to have an end of life product. We don't want you to have an IT department that says, hey, Java 8's end of life. Why are you recommending a product that has so many vulnerabilities? That's not something, again, we can compromise on. We cannot do that. And so we'll be migrating to Java 21. with Niagara 5. And so that work is currently underway. But because we have this opportunity to bring this new version of the Niagara framework to the market, this is a great chance for each and every one of you to shape the direction. So I offered this up at the summit. And the reason why is because, of course, that gave us a great opportunity to get in touch with as many people as possible. But if you weren't at the summit and you want to help shape the direction, you want to serve as an early access or a beta participant as we roll out Niagara 5, please scan that QR code. It's just a quick Microsoft form, just ask you for your email, your contact information. And the whole point behind that is what we'll do is we'll segment you by kind of persona. So if you're you're a building owner, you're a business owner, you're a system integrator, we're going to segment you into each of your own little groups so that we can provide this opportunity to get your feedback in a consistent manner. And of course, the segmentation of personas is to ensure that we can keep the context focused and ensure also with the system integrators, because we know you guys are the ones that are trying it out anyways. I think if we offered a beta version of Niagara 5 to a building owner, they'd say, what is beta? Probably. So it's going to be you guys that are going to be driving that. So here's a couple things that you can expect with Niagara 5. But one thing in particular that we've seen is that there's a demonstrable need to reduce, right, the labor that you typically would spend towards completing an integration job. And so that's top of mind for us. Now, how are we focused on delivering that? We've got an opportunity to take some of the complexities that are within Workbench and kind of boil them down a little bit. Now, when I say boil them down, provide the opportunity for what is kind of a basic Workbench mode. Now, the Workbench mode or Workbench that you currently experience or enjoy today would represent the advanced Workbench. This basic one would reduce, or remove rather, some of the parameters that people like to tinker with, but they don't understand exactly what they do. It'll remove them from the picture. And the whole idea behind that is to, well, it's reduce the cognitive overload. When you guys are looking at a property sheet and you see like 35 parameters in a backnet network, you're like, what the hell is this? Especially if you're new. So if you're green and you haven't had a bunch of years behind your belt, or on your belt rather, this, again, is one thing that really adds up at the end of the day and really impacts your bottom line if you're a system integrator, because you've got that new person that's just spinning their wheels. And as we take Niagara across the globe, one thing that we've realized is that people really want a plug and play experience. Now, how do we do that? Of course, some of that's going to be through limiting some of the capabilities from a profile standpoint, so rest assured we're not taking away your Workbench. But again, it's going to be similar to like what you do with like in Microsoft. You do an advanced search and a basic search. There's some of us that prefer the advanced one. There's some of us that are fine with just the basic one. And I think that's one thing that we'll see going forward. Now, on top of that, we need the ability to be able to give you in that green SI the capability to quickly, let's say, deploy a sequence of operations. So say you have an air handling unit, a variable air volume unit with chilled water coil, and the specification is in conformance with guideline 36 for that high-performing sequence of operations. I think you all can appreciate how difficult it is, depending on the complexity of that actual air handling unit, just how difficult it is to actually implement that sequence per spec. And then once you get the commissioning agent behind you, you better hope that they don't spend too much time digging into that, because that's really where it can get difficult. So what we've done is we're working with ASHRAE, we're working with Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory to support the standard 231P. Now that's the control descriptor language. Now what they're doing is they're defining sequences of operation in like a code. So you heard Bill talk about GitHub. They are currently packaging up these sequences of operations as code within GitHub. And then what we're going to be able to do is pull these down as they are routinely updated and represent them as templates within the Niagara framework. And what will be included therein is you'll have your tags, you'll have your relations, you'll have your history extensions, your alarm extensions, you'll have all of the right parameters selected, even your control loops, folks, which we know is some of the most difficult things to tune from time to time. And the whole idea behind that is to reduce the work load or the labor required to be able to implement that. And it provides the assurity for that building owner that they actually got what they paid for. And then once we get to this whole age of artificial intelligence, what's going to be the one thing that's going to impact it? Well, it's the lack of homogenization when it comes to these sequences. Now again, when you get to tags and relations, you can get closer. But with these new builds or even retrofits, if we're making them actually in compliance with Guideline 36 at the start, and they have the right tags and relations, you're achieving a couple outcomes. Because of course, at the heart of what Guideline 36 does is it's all about reducing energy while ensuring occupant comfort. That's one thing that's going to be at the forefront. So you'll have that in place, but then also, because it's been implemented in a consistent way, you haven't had a certain parameter that's been tweaked, a machine learning algorithm can actually make corrective decisions that will actually be something that's beneficial for the site. Because let's face it, that's something that's going to impact the efficacy of any artificial intelligence in the days ahead. Now on top of that, we're also going to refresh some of our equipment imagery that you've been using within KIT PXN4 SVG. We're also going to be adding some new drivers as well. So again, Niagara 5, being able to speak with Niagara 4 stations, yes, that's critical, it's top of mind for us. The JACE 9000 will run Niagara 5, but the JACE 8000 will not. And the reason why is because we all remember, if you were here 9 years ago, when the JACE 8000 was released, the 3 and the 6 were also running Niagara 4. And we learned from that experience because we knew that the JACE 3 and the 6 didn't have really the right resources on board to be able to run it. So lessons learned. We said, you know what, okay, with Niagara 5, it's just going to be the JACE 9000. But again, you'll still be able to communicate with those N4 stations. So those are just a few things that we have in mind. Of course, the licensing is another really important item that we do want to talk through some of our partners, including yourselves. And that's why it's increasingly important that if you haven't signed up for this user group, please do, because I'm going to close this tomorrow. So if you come out next week and say, I wanted to do that, just keep in mind that this is going to close tomorrow. So as we wrap, you heard Andy say this, the power of partnership, the importance of enablement. We believe at Tritium that it's through partnership, it's through collaboration, that we're able to achieve these goals towards energy reduction, carbon reduction, then also how you deliver a job, consistency, and of course, the profitability more importantly. We'd like to thank you again for your partnership, thank you for your time, and thank you for coming to ControlsCon.
Wait, don't go anywhere. So real quick, so Stephen, when you came to work at Tritium, I said, Stephen, you gotta build this, you gotta build that. And you looked at me and you said, Scott, I was a technician and you don't understand. I'm gonna make it work for the technicians first. And I wanna say thank you to Stephen. I think he's done a fantastic job of that. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Chief architect right here. So we can all appreciate all the little stuff that he's fixed that none of us even know about, frankly. If you guys had any idea what this man's done, seriously, we appreciate you. And Andy, welcome to the party. And if for anybody else who wants to, the guy can take a punch. So feel free if you got some built up Tritium stuff that you wanted to tell him. He's here for tonight, so today. But yeah, it's welcome to the crew, and we're glad to have you. And we're looking forward to more great years with you guys. So thank you, Tritium, so much. So
thanks, Scott.
Well done.
Appreciate it.
All right. Okay, so we're ending the general session for this morning. I think that I'm gonna ask all the speakers to come back up if you don't mind for one last quick applause, and we're gonna do a photo. So if all the speakers would come up for a minute. And while they're walking up, let me just give you a little preview of what's next. So we're going to lunch next. The lunch is right out those doors, so just go grab your food and come back in here. After lunch at 1 o'clock, we're gonna start our breakout sessions. We have 2 breakout sessions. The first one is the technology track, which is hosted by our very own Mike Mitchell, CTO of Cochrane Supply, James Johnson and the Tritium team. This is gonna be a technical session, they're going to dive into some of the really neat tech that they're working with, and then they're going to show you some really cool ways to be more efficient in programming, get into some of the neat features, and then at the end, Cochrane, by the way, this conference, we've been doing it for about 20 years, and this is one of the most popular segments we do every year. It's called Stump the Chump. So that's where all of you technicians get some of the smart tech guys up there, and let's see you stump them, right? So that's in here. That's after lunch, starting at 1 o'clock. In the business track, so for those of you who don't program jobs, pretty much, those of you, you'll want to be in the business track. And the business track is in, oh shoot, I didn't write it. The Mandalay Room, which is basically you walk out and you'll see a sign, just kind of walk out here to the right and just keep walking and you'll see it. And again, that starts at 1 o'clock. Now, don't miss that. We have, can you grab it? This is really exciting. This is our very first, something about coming to Texas, we got excited and we wanted to make it fun. And you know, you got all the playoffs going on with hockey and basketball. I mean, geez, could it be a better place to be than Dallas during that time, right, with these teams? But anyways, we decided to build our own little competition. We call this the Controls Con Controller Cup. So in the business track, we're going to be going through a lot of really neat concepts for you guys. We're going to hopefully inform you with a lot of things to help you sell, engineer, do your jobs better. But then at the end, our own Gus Botter, he's going to be right there. He's going to be hosting the Controller Cup. So we have 5 of our automation vendors. They're bringing their very best product and they're going to pitch it to you. We're going to have a voting app up and you all are going to decide who the winner is. And we'll find out tonight who the winner of the Controller Cup is. So you won't have to wait. So that's at 4 o'clock. That's in the business track. Like I said, if you're more of a technician, you want to be in here. Everybody else, you're welcome to come to the business track. And then we go to dinner after that. So dinner will be back here, by the way. So everything's kind of right here. So it's easy to find. And we have an exciting dinner and awards for you guys later tonight. So with that, I just want to thank again my keynotes. Well done. Thank you all for sticking around. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you after lunch. Thank you.